today, day one, we're going to be talking about stress and how to manage our stress. Because the shocking thing is, stress is really, it's a silent killer, right? It's a silent killer. It works stealth-like within our body. It's behind the scenes. It's doing different things, but we don't really pay attention to what it's doing to our body, right? You know, it might give you some pokes and whispers and nudges every once in a while, like you might, you know, get a pain in your stomach, or you might get some indigestion, or you might get some pain in your knee, or, you know, all of these are indications that there's stress within our body. And we don't pay attention to that. And we just, most of us just keep accumulating that stress. So unless we can release the stress, it just keeps accumulating in our body. And then one day it will break. One day it says, okay, you know what, you've done enough. I can't do this anymore. And something breaks. So you might get a terrible diagnosis or something, because a lot of these diseases, a lot of these diseases are autoimmune diseases, which means if you have a strong immune system, you won't succumb to that disease. But as soon as our immune system is weakened and you have that gene for that particular disease, that gene gets turned on, and then disease may rear its ugly head. And so, things like heart disease or diabetes or cancer, dementia, these are all autoimmune diseases that can be prevented. And as I said earlier, you may have the gene, but unless you turn that gene on, you will not succumb to that. So all the stress within our body is creating all this inflammation. It's creating a lot of inflammation, and our body is trying to fight the inflammation, but it can only fight so much, right? If we keep putting fuel to the fire, then we won't. We keep accumulating that stress, the inflammation. Our bodies can't. Eventually, it's just going to get weaker and weaker and weaker, and it just can't keep up. And so, being very good at identifying the stresses in your body, knowing that, like listening to your body, being an investigator of your body, can help you kind of tune into what's going on, right? And the thing with stress, most of the stress that we have is something we have complete control over. Now, we have an innate mechanism in our body, that fight or flight response, that, when we're chased by a dog that's, about to bite us, yes, we want to be able to get out of harm's way very, very quickly. And so we have this innate ability to kind of, without even thinking, get out of harm's way, right? But the problem is that fight or flight is, we're living with it on a constant basis. When we have chronic stress within our body, we're in that fight or flight response all the time. And so our bodies were only designed to have a quick adrenaline rush to get out of harm's way for our own safety for a very short period of time. And so to bring down that stress, we really need to reprogram our neurology, reprogram our patterning, reprogram our response to stress. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if we know that there is so much stress in our body, and we know that most of this stress is controllable, then we have the ability to take our power back, right? We have the ability to take the power back. But if we don't pay attention to this, it will definitely show up in a negative way. It will. And so a lot of times too, we kind of normalize our stress. We normalize it. We sometimes even joke about it. You know, we're just such a busy society, and we have stress coming in from all different areas, right? You know, we might be, you know, if you have kids, you're running your kids to different activities. Maybe you have an elderly parent that you're running and you're helping all the time, or maybe you're in a toxic relationship, or maybe you're eating foods that are produced like heavily, have a lot of chemicals in them, and maybe you're in a career that's not making you happy, or maybe, you know, like with all the electronics we have today, we've got all of that stress that our bodies are reacting to, right? The electronic magnetic frequencies affect the stress in our body, affects the inflammation in our body. And so we've got it coming from all different ways, you know, pesticides in our food. So the idea is we can control a lot of it, but minimizing it as much as possible. Some things we can't, you know, electronics, it's a thing, it's part of our society now. We can minimize it by turning off our Wi-Fi at nighttime, so it's not interfering with our brain waves while we're sleeping. But, you know, it doesn't matter where you go, you know, we've got those electronic magnetic frequencies. So, but a lot of stuff we can control. We can control the relationships, you know, how we react to different situations. We can control the job that we're doing. If we're not happy, you have the ability to kind of change that job. And so, so that's the cool thing, is that we have control over our stress, and we have the power to get it back. Because when we have a lot of stress in our body, it's bringing our energy right down, right? So we can't do more. We can't do a lot of things because it's like, oh, I don't feel like it. You know, you just don't want to. So by getting rid of some of that stress within your body, you'll increase your energy naturally. Okay, so as I said, chronic stress creates inflammation, and a lot of inflammation in our body breaks down our immune system. And our health is highly correlated to the amount of stress in our bodies. Stress from our emotions, our thoughts, our poor nutrition, our lack of movement, you know, and lack of movement can cause injury too. You know, if you're not flexible, that could cause injury, different toxins in our body. And so listening, as I said, to those nudges, those whispers along the way, and tuning into your body on a daily basis is so important. And I'll go through an exercise shortly where we'll do just that. And if we succumb to all this stress, if we just normalize it and say, okay, well, that's just part of who we are, then it will affect your future health. And if you'll notice somebody who's under a lot of stress, you see it in their face, right? They have more wrinkles. They have more, their face just looks stressed all the time compared to somebody who is healthy. Somebody who's healthy, they look vibrant, they look alive, right? Stress has a lot, it really, really affects us, affects how you show up, affects your health. And a lot of this inflammation, a lot of this stress gets stuck right in the cellular level, in the tissues, in the fascia, in our body. So when we have a lot of stress, it affects our flexibility because we have a lot of tightness in our body too. And fascia basically is a casing of connective tissue that surrounds and holds every organ, the blood vessels, the nerve fibers, and the muscles, all in place. So we have a lot of fascia in our body, and if that's tight, because that's where the the stress from emotions will kind of get stuck and lodged in there, and emotions could come from childhood, right? A lot of them come from childhood. And we'll talk about that when we get to, maybe we'll talk about it now. So we have these beliefs that we develop when we're a young child. And, you know, something might have happened, an event might have happened. And so you internalize it. So it's maybe, I know one of the kids was bullying you on the playground, and then you kind of internalize that and said, oh, nobody likes me, I'm not a likable person. And then you carry that belief into your adulthood, and it kind of dictates who you are and how you show up. But it could be a trigger too. So if somebody kind of says something to you and triggers that response, you go into that response as if you were experiencing it all over again as a child, the intensity of it. And you might go from 0 to 100 with this, you know, going from being calm to being so angry at the person, just like that. So if we're carrying a lot of that, a lot of limiting beliefs, like emotions from our childhood, then that's going to affect our health as well. And it's going to affect the stress levels in our body. So knowing those patterns, that when you do have an interaction with somebody and you do go, you know, from 0 to 100, or kind of like you don't react the way, you know, another person would react, like more calmly, then look at the patterning and look what's behind the scenes and what's triggering you to do that, because that's one way we can correct or make our relationships better, is by determining what our triggers are, because it's not what the person said, it's our reaction to what the person said, right? It's us, because of what we feel about our own self-worth, that's triggering that. It's triggering that. Okay, so paying attention to that. Okay, so my aim for this 4 days is to get you thinking more about quality of life and not quantity of life. We tend to think that more is better. So, you know, go to the gym for an hour, and then people say, oh, I don't have an hour, so therefore I'm not going to go to the gym. But sometimes doing too much can actually cause stress within our body too. So our bodies were never designed to do, you know, marathons, for instance. And I used to do marathons. I did 8 marathons. I did, 5 ultra marathons. And it puts a lot of stress on your body. And so more is not better. In fact, when I was training for one of my ultra marathons, the other girl that I was training with, she went to the doctor 2 weeks prior to the race and had blood work done. And her markers were so scary. Her heart markers were really low. The doctor was very, very concerned, but she knew what she was doing. She knew that she was training for this crazy race. So she said, okay, I know what you're doing. So I'm not really worried, but come back after 3 weeks and I want to do this. I want to test your blood again to make sure everything normalizes, but they were scary, scary numbers. And I started to think afterwards, it's like, oh my God, look at what we're doing to our bodies. We're supposed to be making our bodies healthy. And we thought we were. It's like, well, I can do a 50K race. But the reality is that was creating a lot of stress within my body. Right. And it was right around that time when everything started to crash down for me. And about 6 years ago, my health took a big turn. And that's what started my whole journey here. I had lead poisoning. I had 18 times the amount of lead in my body than what they call normal. And so I was heading for disaster, really, because lead is very, very toxic in the body. So I had that. I had adrenal fatigue. I had leaky gut. I had terrible headaches. I was sleeping all the time. I could barely get through the day. I had, every day I'm taking 2 naps a day and then going to bed at 7 o'clock. So it was a really low point in my life. And I knew I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision to live or die, because at the same time as all this was going on, my sister passed away. She passed away, and at 54, sorry, tearing up now. But she passed away, and it was kind of like the kind of the wake-up call that I needed at the time, right? And so that's what projected me onto this journey to say, you know what, I got to figure this out. What the heck are we doing? Because on the outside, I looked like I was a picture of health. I exercised all the time. I ate well, but I was so sick, and my family couldn't understand why I was so sick when I was doing everything right, and they weren't, but they were much healthier than me, and it didn't make sense. And that's when I started the journey. And all of the stress that was in with my body was self-inflicted stress from my emotions that I carried from my childhood into my adulthood. It was all to do with my self-worth and I didn't feel like I had importance in the world, and all of these thoughts that really kept me stuck and in a very low place. And so that's what kind of got me so passionate about this topic, is because you can easily turn it around. But if we keep going on that journey of destruction, it's not going to end well. And I'm sure I wouldn't be here today had I not made that change. And so if we look at some stats, 55% of Americans are stressed during the day. 55%, that's half of Americans are stressed throughout the day. And over half, 57% of them are saying that stress paralyzes them. It paralyzes them. Those are pretty significant numbers. 83% of US workers suffer from work-related stress. And they say it's a lot to do with the workload, right? We keep taking on more and more and more. The computer age was supposed to make our life more simple. When I was in university in the late 80s, that's when the internet was like becoming a big thing. And I was working for University of Waterloo. Sorry, I was a student at the University of Waterloo. So they were very involved in the internet, and all the buzz was, oh, once we get the internet up and running, people are going to have shortened weeks. People are going to be more relaxed. They're going to have all this time on their hand. And it became the complete opposite. The demands of work just kept piling on and kept piling on. And so 83% of US workers suffer from work-related stress. That's huge. That's huge. And when people were asked to rank their stress, they ranked it at about 5 out of 10, which is still high. 5 out of 10 is high. And a third of the Americans visited a doctor for stress-related conditions. And over a quarter of employees are at risk of burning out in 12 months, right? We even just look at the pandemic, look at the frontline workers. Like they've had enough. They can't deal with the pressures, right? And so what happens? Burnout happens, and people get sick, because it affects our health, and also it affects our relationships, right? Because if you're not happy at work, if you're stressed at work and you're overloaded, then that's going to come home. That's going to come home to the home life. Okay, so what can we do? What can we do to reduce the stress? And what I find very helpful is to practice the 4 A's, the 4 A's around stress. The first one being avoid stress wherever possible. Avoid any unnecessary stress. So being proactive. when you're doing things. So like if you have to go to, you're going into the office and you know that there's probably going to be traffic along the way, then you give yourself more time to get to work. So you're not sitting in traffic being stressed. So being proactive is a really easy way to kind of reduce your stress. And then saying no to people when it doesn't feel right to you, right? So creating those healthy boundaries. So always checking in with yourself to make sure that when you say yes to somebody, it's a true yes. It's congruent with what you believe and how you feel at the time. But the problem is that we're worried about judgment and criticism, and them thinking that we're not being helpful or we're not being nice, or all of that goes on in our heads, but that just goes back to our limiting beliefs about ourselves. We really need to be looking after ourselves first, putting the oxygen mask on us first before we can be of any good to anybody else. So always checking in with yourself to say, does this make sense for me at this moment in my life? And so creating those healthy boundaries, so important. And then another thing is make a list. Make a list of everything that's in your brain, because we have so much up here. We keep so much up here, and it creates stress within our body because we're thinking, oh, I got to remember to go pick up the kids, and I have to go to the grocery store, and I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I got to get this project out. And so we're trying to keep it all up in our brains, and it's affecting us. It's creating more stress. So I'm going to ask you guys to do a quick exercise right now. We're just going to do it for 2 minutes. You probably might want to do this again on your own, because you probably have a lot more to add to your list. But I just want you to take 2 minutes right now and just write down everything that's on your brain, anything you're worried about, anything that you're fearing right now, anything that you think you have to do, anything that comes up. Don't try to justify it or make sense out of it. Whatever you write down, whatever comes up for you, just write it down. And when we write it down fast like that, when we don't try to analyze it, then it's coming from our subconscious mind, right? So it's stuck, it's in our subconscious mind. So just let your subconscious mind feed out what's coming up for you right now, right? And just take a couple minutes to do that. Oh, Ayala says competition. Yes, competition can be a big stressor as well, for sure. And really, we should only be competing with ourselves, right? We should only be trying to do better than ourselves and not worrying what the next person's doing. Okay, does everybody have something on their list? So I just want you to go through your list right now and put a check mark beside if it's something that you can control.
You can control?
Can control. Check mark for can control, and then an X if you can't control it. So for instance, you want your child to clean their room. You don't really have control over that. Your child has a brain of his own, is going to do it or not do it, right? So we can't make other people do what we want them to do. So that would be something that you can't control. job competition for survival, more to the new generation. It's still, we still have the ability to react to different situations. But we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves, which is unwarranted. Because if we released that stress, if we released the idea that I gotta do to get that position, that's not going to get you the position in the long run. I truly don't believe that will get you the position. What will give you the position is if you're congruent and in line with the company and the people there. That's going to give you more, more influence or ability to get that position. It's when, and if you start looking at it, that if you don't get the position, then it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't a good fit for you. But we do get kind of crazy, and I got to do more because that's how I'm going to get that promotion. But the reality that's not, because eventually you'll burn out and you'll be useless to anybody anyways. But if you just can't come from a mindset that, you're doing the best that you can do, and that's all you can expect of yourself. And if it doesn't work out, it's because there's something better down the road for you, right? There's something better. I know it's a hard concept, and I could talk hours on this concept about the law of attraction. But it really, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen to myself. I've seen it happen to people, people around me. If you let the flow of energy just be, and don't try to interrupt it and make it a certain way. If you just let the flow of energy happen the way it was meant to happen, then things will eventually pan out for you.
And I always think, Tina, that that's just sort of fear, and fear is just control, and control, we really don't have any control. So
right.
Kind of buying into the idea that if I recognize that what my emotion is fear, whether it's a job or what my kids are doing, as soon as I think of fear, I think of control. And I know really we don't have any control. What's going to happen is going to happen. As long as you do your best and you're constantly mindful of that, then you can kind of release that fear a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Leanne. So take a look at your list quickly, and who had X's on it? Who had X's? Nobody had any X's on their list? Oh, Mark did. Did you want to talk about it? Whoops, I just lost you.
Hold on, I was on mute. Sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of things about my life that the fear about not having control is correct.
Okay, good.
And I'm putting myself in a stressful situation over the next month or so. And in a way, sometimes the fear of not knowing what will happen next is actually part of the excitement about not knowing what will happen next.
Right. Sorry, go on.
Change is the only constant in your life. So being able to embrace that, I think, is what I need to do to help me manage that stress that I have. Does that make sense? Yes, for sure. And being flexible and adaptable. Yes. Right. And if we let things flow naturally, you will be pleasantly surprised that things start to fall into place.
And you'll sit back and you wonder, how the heck did that happen? How did this opportunity just come in at the exact moment that I needed it? Because we're open to it, right? We're open to it. When you're allowing the flow, it just happened. We're open to different opportunities out there. But once we sit there and we try to force it and create the path, working really hard, trying to get that promotion, we're affecting the energy. Then we have blinders on. We can't see the opportunities that are around us. Awesome. So for anybody that had X's on their list, cross those off, get it out of your brain, because you can't change it. You can't do anything about it. So why is it even renting space in your brain, right? Just get it off, get it out of your brain, forget about it. It doesn't concern you, and just concentrate on things you do have power to change. Okay, so that was number one, the first A. The second A is alter. Alter. We want to alter a lot of our stress. We want to alter the way we communicate and the way we manage our time and stuff like that, because a lot of stress comes from miscommunication or poor time management. So communicating openly to people, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a coworker, a friend, family member, coming from a place, I always say, come from a place of love. When you come from a place of love, then you're not judgmental. You're not shaming, blaming, making somebody feel wrong for something that they did. When you come from a place of love, you're coming from a place like, okay, this happened. What can we do to fix it? Or you're coming from a place of, you need some TLC right now. So, I'm going to give that to you right now. So when you come from a place of love, then you don't get into those arguments, those ridiculous arguments that afterwards you're thinking, I can't believe we just fought about that little thing, right? So that's my motto, come from a place of love, and take responsibility for your part in the interaction, right? We often sit there and point the finger and say, he makes me so angry, or he's so lazy, the house is always a mess. We're always pointing fingers and trying to blame, shame, making somebody feel wrong. I shouldn't say always. Sometimes we do this. And the problem with that, it just creates friction. It creates even more miscommunication, even more stress within the relationship. And of course, that stress just resides within your body, right? So being authentic, right? Be authentic with what you say. Don't say things because you think that person needs to hear it or wants to hear it or whatever, but say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you come from a place of authenticity, then you're true to your own core values. You're in alignment with your values when you come from a space of authenticity. When you come from a place of not being authentic, then that when it's misaligned like that, then it will I lost my train of thought, sorry. When you're misaligned, that's when the problems more stress will build up within your own body. Good morning, Virginia. Nice of you to join us. Okay, so the first A to reducing our stress is to avoid the situations where you create unnecessary stress. The second one is alter. So we want to alter the way we communicate and our time management, because that can, when those are out of alignment, they can really affect our stress. The third one is accept the situation, right? The situation's the situation. It happened. So forgive and move on, or accept and move on. And don't sweat the small stuff, right? Sometimes we get kind of stuck in the small stuff. And I just say, pick your own battles, right? Pick your battles that you want to put your energy into, and all that small stuff, like, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? We put too much emphasis on it. And treat your mistakes as learning or teaching opportunities, right? So when you make a mistake, it's information. It's information. You know, sometimes we get stuck in it and we sit there and we go through the scenario again and over our heads, like, why did I say that? I should have said it differently, and we beat ourselves up. But if we take it as, okay, that happened, you know, how could I change it? What could I have done differently to make it better the next time, you know, I'm faced with this situation? That's how we grow, right? That's how we grow into being better. So, so treat everything as information. And, you know, like if you procrastinated on a project, for example, evaluate the process. What did you do? And where did maybe things didn't go quite so right? And then figure out how to tweak it so that next time it works more fluently. And then the fourth one is adapt. Adapt around the situation. As I said, we are being flexible and adaptive to different scenarios will help reduce your stress. So adjust your standards. Sometimes we're perfectionists, right? We want everything to be perfect. But the thing is, it's a big limiting belief that things need to be perfect. Because really, people don't really pay attention to those last little perfective moves that you do. They're looking at we're using the 80-20 rule again, they're looking at 80% of what you did. That's what's significant in their mind. Those little dots and crosses and everything else that you're doing is not, most people aren't even acknowledging. So if we can stop trying to be perfect all the time and just, you know, just our standards to allow things to kind of, you know, not be exactly perfect, you'll reduce a lot of stress, because a lot of times perfectionism keeps you stuck. Keeps you stuck because you think that if I'm not going to start that project because I won't be able to do it exactly the way I want. It's not going to be perfect. So I'm just not going to start it. And you get stuck a lot of times. And so, you know, getting rid of that mentality of having to be perfect will automatically reduce your stress. And so, and using mantras, like using I am statements, positive affirmations, can be very helpful in reducing your stress as well, because, you know, as I said, a lot of times we're beating ourselves up. We're saying, you know, I'm stupid, or I can't do that, or I'm not athletic, or you have all these thoughts. But what we're saying, those words, I am, are so powerful that whatever you say afterwards, you believe. So if you think, I'm not a good athlete, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm overweight, I'm old. If that's what you're saying to yourself, then that's what you're going to live. So be careful what you say to yourself, and try to reframe it into a positive affirmation or a positive mantra. You know, create positive mantras that you live by. Like one of mine is health is wealth, right? Health is wealth. So reminding yourself, you know, what your journey is, what your health journey is, and creating these mantras and I am statements and living them now. So if you're saying, I am happy, maybe you feel that you need more happiness in your life. I am happy. Start living like a happy person now, right? We always say, I'll be happy when I make my first million. I'll be happy when I have that dream job. I'll be happy when whatever it is. But the thing is, you're not going to be happy when you get that thing, because it's not that thing that's going to make you happy. Happiness comes from within, right? It's not a materialistic thing out there. It comes from beyond. So start living happiness now. And so using those affirmations to get you into that mindset. But make sure too that it's congruent to what your unconscious mind believes, right? You have to believe. Belief is a big thing. We have to believe that we can get to a certain place. If we don't believe we can get there, we'll never get there. So if you believe that, oh, I'll never be healthy, I got all these knee problems, I'm 55, 60 years old, life's over for me anyways. If you don't believe that you can get healthier, you won't be able to get healthier. So belief is so key. Okay, so those are the 4 A's that I live by. Avoid situations where you could create unnecessary stress. Alter. A lot of the stress comes from miscommunication and poor time management. Accept the situation and be flexible. Adapt around the situation. Okay. So I'm going to do a mindfulness exercise with you guys right now. And this exercise is extremely simplistic, but extremely powerful. And I use it all the time because it is that powerful. So I call it my pie method. And what it is, and it's the only pie that I condone, by the way, but it's pie, P-I-E, not P-I, even though I'm mathematics background too, but no, P-I-E. But I'm just going to have you guys just sit comfortably in your chairs right now. And when you're ready, gently close your eyes. And I'd like you to just check in with your body and notice where you're holding stress. Maybe it's in your neck. You can feel some tension. Where's that tension? In your neck, in your shoulders, your face, your jaw. Is it in your gut, your heart? Where is that tension right now? Are there any pains in your body? Any discomforts? And just rank the stress that you feel in your body right now. Just rank it on a scale of 0 to 10. So now what I'll have you do is keep your eyes closed. And I just want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. So try to count for a count of 4 as you inhale in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth for a count of 6. And I want you to repeat that 4 more times. Now, keeping your eyes closed, just scan your body again and rank your stress now. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And if you just want to put in the chat what your stress was at the beginning and what your stress is now, just to see if it changed at all during that process. Okay, Mark went from a 5 to a 3, so that's awesome. Ayala, 4 to 3, awesome. 7 to 5, Denise.
I don't know how to do that.
There is a chat button. Is that what you're asking? There's a chat button at the bottom, along the bottom. You see mute, stop video, security, share screen, all of that. There's also a chat button. Virginia, 5 to 3, awesome. Okay, and Ayala said, I exercised and walked today for 85 minutes, so my stress is low. Good, good, good. Good. Awesome. So you can see, what did that take us? Maybe 30 seconds? How your stress came down in just 30 seconds. So I highly recommend doing this. Oh, somebody went from 3 to 0. Woo, Alan. My job is done.
Good for you.
Okay, so that's awesome. So very, very, very powerful. Very powerful process to do. And I use this a lot. Like if I'm in a situation where I can feel my blood pressure going up, or I can feel that I'm getting a little anxious, I step away from the situation if I can. If I can't, I just do it privately in my own, in the space that I'm at. But if I can step away, I step away. I just get back into contact with my body, and then I start breathing just 5 times, breathing 5 times. And it can really bring down the nervous system to a parasympathetic state very, very, very quickly, so that when you go back into the situation, you can react in a more calm, method, right? So that's awesome. So good, good, good. Did everybody like that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good, good. Okay. Because, breathing is one of those things that's just automatic for us, right? And we couldn't survive without it. But the thing is, when we're in that chronic stress state, we tend to shallow breathe. We breathe from our lungs, right? And very short breaths. But we really need to start to learn, breathe from the diaphragm, right? Breathe take deep breaths in, and not those shallow breaths. And so the more you can practice this, the better. If you feel yourself dysregulated, just try this out. And checking, like sometimes we don't even realize we're dysregulated, but taking the time to check in and with your body regularly to say, what does my body need right now? Okay, maybe I can feel a little tension. Maybe I need to release that. So that's awesome. Thank you for playing with me with that. So I do recommend you try that out. Maybe tonight, if you have a situation, try that out and see how it works. And so in summary from today, we're a really stressed society. We're a really stressed society, and we're a sick society. I have to say, like, since I've been in my 50s, I've had a lot of friends, family members, my age group, that have succumbed to devastating illnesses like cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, cancer. And it's like, that shouldn't be. To me, 50 is, you should be vibrant, you should be energetic, you should have, you should be living and not succumbing to these terrible, terrible diseases. So we are a sick society, and using our body as a tool to know when we're dysregulated can be immensely powerful in bringing attention to the stress and doing something about it immediately, right? Don't let that stress pile up. Release it as it enters into your body. And so if you like today's class, tune in for tomorrow because we're going to talk about how to go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Okay, so it's going to be a good class tomorrow. And if you can't come on live, I know Ayala said she can't. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to be posting these in YouTube as well, so you can go there and grab it from there, and stay with us if you can for the 4 days. And is any last questions before we head out? I'll just see.
Sorry, Eleanor.
Just come off mute if you have any questions. Yes, Ayala says it's good for lowering the blood pressure. Yes, 6 times per minute. Yeah, for sure. Okay, is there any other questions before we close? Nothing? Clear as mud? Okay. Well, thank you so much. I have so much gratitude for you guys for coming on here, spending the last hour and a bit with me, and hope to see you guys tomorrow.